Coming this fall from SJS Direct, Easting the Sands of Time. It's action, adventure, and romance in ancient Egypt in this fantasy flashback Easting series adventure. Pre-order Easting the Sands of Time today on Amazon.com. Yesterday I did a video on the simp with a badge, and I said that this simp with a badge came from the Bronx. However, this simp with a badge actually came from Brooklyn. And as I took a more critical examination of this simp with a badge, I had to shake my head. Because this simp with a badge decided he was going to throw away an 18-year career as a police sergeant, all because some guy was talking to his girlfriend. Now, when it comes down to police sergeants here in New York, usually your police sergeants make very good money because the sergeant's exam is a very tough exam, and those who can pass the sergeant's exam usually wind up getting a very good boost in pay. Usually, a couple of years ago, I think it was believed to be $60-some thousand a year to be a police sergeant, and it might be a little more to be a police sergeant as a starting salary. And this guy decided he was going to put all of his 18 years of experience as a police officer and his pension and all the things that would allow him to live a comfortable lifestyle at risk all over a female. And what really makes it troubling is that he put it all at risk over a female who had been busted for prostitution in the past. And that's what's the most mind-boggling thing for me. You would think a police officer would have the critical thinking skills to know that any female who goes out here and participates in prostitution is not a female you want to deal with. Because when it comes down to females who participate in prostitution, this is a female who is more likely than not to cheat on you. And the pattern was clearly showing to this simp with a badge, but this man had no critical thinking skills and could not connect the dots as related to this predatory female, because back in 2016, this very same female got this man jammed up, and he wound up on disciplinary charges because he decided to fight another guy over this female. And those disciplinary charges made it where it was possible for this man to be fired the next time if he got into trouble. So this simp with a badge knew walking in with this female that he was on thin ice, he was on probation, and he was putting his very career in jeopardy trying to protect this female. Because I know if I was to wind up in a sort of trouble like that over a female, that female is going to be gone. Because as it stands, when it comes down to a man, his money needs to come first, and he needs to put himself first and put his economic situation first, because if he does not meet his needs, no one else will meet his needs. But this simp with a badge was so caught up in his emotions over this female, he was willing to put his very career in jeopardy, all because some 21-year-old punk was talking to his girlfriend, and he was going to go take off his police officer uniform, put on some Mickey Mouse galoshes and a Ben Cooper cape, and then go play Captain Save-'em to defend this female. Instead of him connecting the dots and seeing that this female is the problem, he's going to go out here and try to talk to this guy and threaten him and say, "Stay away from my woman," when in actuality, that was never his woman. So this dude decides to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to confront this 21-year-old dude and get in his face over this female. And then, as they're having this argument, he then takes out his service weapon and shoots this individual in the face 2 times. And then, as this man is laying there bleeding on the street, he decides to drop a box cutter in front of the guy to make it look like the guy was participating in a robbery and he was trying to defend himself. Now, that story might have gotten by just in the old days when there were no security cameras. However, in this age of security cameras and video being taped everywhere, the whole incident was shown on video cameras. And it showed this simp with a badge arguing with this man, the simp with a badge shooting this man, the simp with a badge then deciding to take out a box cutter, drop it on the ground next to the guy's body, and then decides to leave. And he decides to do this and then comes back with it and picks the box cutter back up. And all of this is on video, and it all shows how dysfunctional this simp was and how dangerous this simp was, because the place where he decided to shoot this man was near a school. And that's what's really scary about these simps. They're so caught up in their emotions that they're not thinking about the safety of others. If this simp with a badge had decided to participate in this incident just a few minutes earlier, a custodian might have possibly been killed as a result of it, and all that blood and stuff would have been seen by many of the kids who went to that school. And that's what's really dysfunctional about this simp. Again, so caught up in his emotions over this 21-year-old dude talking to his bust down of a girlfriend that he could not see what he was putting in jeopardy. He was putting his 18-year career as a police officer in jeopardy, and he was already on thin ice as a police sergeant. So he already was on thin ice and was about to be fired, and now he's probably going to be fired and then brought up on criminal charges. And as he is sitting there in Rikers Island, probably with a target on his back due to many of these offenders in there knowing that he's a cop, what's going to happen is the same female who he was going out here to try to defend the honor of will probably be back on the streets turning tricks with guys just like that 21-year-old dude. And the reason why she's probably going to be back on these streets is because that's the way many of these predatory females operate. This guy probably just did not understand that when it comes down to these predatory females, they are always looking for a better deal. And this female was probably looking for a better deal right behind this dude's back, and she was probably going to other dudes to get deals from them and probably getting her back blown out by those very same dudes. Because if this female was caught for prostitution years ago, chances are she was probably out here turning tricks behind this sergeant's back, and this sergeant was so cucked he probably couldn't see what was going on in front of him, because he had placed this female on a pedestal that she did not need to be on. And because he had placed her on this pedestal, he could not see this woman for who she truly was. Because when I take a critical look at the picture regarding the simp with a badge, it's just a sad picture to see. When you would think a police officer who walks these streets would have the critical thinking skills to say to himself, when you're dealing with a female who has been busted for prostitution in the past, this is not a female I want to make my girlfriend. I would not want to go out here and put on a Ben Cooper cape and Mickey Mouse galoshes to save a female who cannot be saved. Because when it comes down to these women who are prostitutes, that's what they do. They turn tricks with guys, and they look for guys to get money out of. And when it probably came down to that 21-year-old dude and the dude who he had fought against in the past, she was probably turning tricks with those guys or trying to find ways to get money out of those guys. But because this simp with a badge put this woman on a pedestal, he wound up putting his very entire life and career at risk. And that's what's really sad about this situation is that this man, who you would think with his education and experience just did not have the logic and common sense to understand this is why you do not deal with women who have participated in prostitution in the past. Because when it comes down to women who will sell their bodies, they will sell you out, and you will be the loser at the end of the day. And this simp with a badge, he is going to lose big because they have him on camera fabricating evidence in the commission of his crime. It's practically an open and shut case in criminal court, and at the least, he will just lose his job because he was already on thin ice with the NYPD, and at the most, he's going to do some time in prison for attempted murder. And that's really, again, very sad because this simp with a badge, if he had some critical thinking skills and could use some logic and reason, he would understand that there are things that are more valuable in a man's life than a girlfriend. And a girlfriend, again, is not a wife, and that's not somebody you would be willing to put your life and your career on the line for, because a girlfriend means somebody you are dating, and a 40-year-old man who is in a position like a police sergeant making good money, he does not need to put his career and safety and his life at risk all over a woman. And that's another sad part of the story, is that this 40-year-old man did not understand his value as a man. He did not understand what he brought to the table, and he did not understand what he was putting at risk. He put the woman, who was a prostitute, at the bottom of the world and elevated her to a value that is artificially inflated more than she was worth. And because he put her on a high value, he wound up losing everything that had value in his life. Because he could not see his own value and what he brought to the table, he now is about to lose everything. And that's the big problem with many of these simps out here. When it comes down to these simps out here, they put these women on pedestals, they inflate these females' value, they gas their heads up, they make them think that they're so much, and what happens is they wind up losing not only their economic and social status, but they also lose their intangibles of manhood. And because this guy, who was a police sergeant, did not understand the values of his intangibles of manhood, like his dignity, his self-respect, his self-worth, his integrity, he wound up compromising all the things that were important to him. Because a man who understood his intangibles of manhood, if he heard that his woman was out here with other dudes, he would just leave the woman. And if he knew that this woman was a prostitute in the past, that man would understand his value as a man and say, this is not a female I want to get involved with. Because if I get involved with this female, chances are this female is going to cheat on me. So I don't need this grief in my life as a man. And as a man, I have more important things to do than be involved with a female who is out here selling her body to the highest bidder. As a man who has value, I'm going to say something like, I want to deal with a female who values herself and someone who will value me and work with me towards building something. This female who has been out here prostituting, this is not a female I can build with. So a smart man with critical thinking skills is not even going to get involved with that type of female. He's going to leave her to guys like the guy that this simp with a badge fought with, and this 21-year-old dude that he shot her over. Because that man is going to say that this woman is at the bottom of the world. She's not somebody I need to deal with. And if I'm coming up in the world, then I need to come up with a woman who is going to help me elevate us both, and someone who's going to help me build something to take us both to the next level. This simp with a badge is really sad because here is a man who had a promising career and was this close to retirement because it's a officer with an 18 year career on the force. All he had to do was work for 7 more years, and he probably could have retired with a pension at 3/4 of that good salary and gone out here and started another business. He practically had everything in his path for success, but he threw it all away, all over a female, and that's what happens to many of these simps, whether they be these simps with a badge like this police officer or these $1 billion simps out here. They will take everything that they work for and throw it away all over a female who isn't worth a $5 food stamp. If you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. And if you don't want to be a simp like this simp with a badge, you can pick up my ebook and paperback, Stop Simping, Why Men Don't Need Finance to Get Romance, the second edition, on Amazon.com. And after you read that book, you will learn why you shouldn't go out here and be like this simp with a badge. That's all I have to say with this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.